Now, I'm not just a speaker. I'm also the host for the next hour and a half. And next up is a great company that's been exploring alternate manufacturing techniques. They're out of New York and have been getting a lot of press for some of their fashion-forward ideas. Please welcome out Continuum Fashion CEO, Mary Huang.
Thank you, Brady. Hello, I'm Mary Huang, co-founder of Continuum Fashion. We pioneer technologies to change how fashion is made and distributed. Specifically, right now, we're working with 3D printing. Right now, I'm wearing 3D printed shoes, and I've actually brought a 3D printer. And you might have seen these devices. They're just these small desktop machines, and they're fairly simple. And it is kind of the simple idea. You can think of it like robots meets Cinderella, right? If you look at fashion, the interesting thing is that it's so pervasive. But the way that we make clothes hasn't really changed in the last century. The way we make shoes hasn't really changed in the last century. So 3D printing is very interesting right now because very quickly in the last 2 years, all of these small machines have come up. You know, this machine is 2,000 euros. And this is the Ultimaker. It comes from a company in the Netherlands. There's many, many other 3D printing companies that are making these low-end machines. I mean, if you look at Kickstarter, there's almost a new one every week. And it's an interesting time because if you're seeing this technology, you're like, wow, this is like a 2,000 euro machine. What can you make on it? And they sell a good number of these, but they're to like fab labs and schools, small companies, design studios. It's not exactly a consumer device, and they're largely used for prototyping. The dream of 3D printing is that you can actually just like make finished products on them. That's Star Trek, right? Like pull something off the machine, it's done. And so that's the challenge. Like, can we make finished products on something like this? Because if we can, that is like a factory on a desk. And so specifically for shoes, it's interesting. It actually works rather well. Like, I mean, proportionally, shoes are about the right size for the machine. And there's just certain advantages with this technology because of its simplicity. One thing is that they're open source, which means you don't have proprietary materials. And a desktop machine is FDM, which means it's basically using thermoplastics. And thermoplastics are hot melt. It's solid going into the machine, it melts, it solidifies again. So any thermoplastic you can put into the machine. And those are nylon, ABS, PET, which is polyester, PLA, there's wood-based PLA, there is also a new material that's kind of like rubber. And these materials, while they might not work for everything, they actually are quite similar to what a lot of shoes are made of. And so with the rubbery material, you can actually make flexible shoes. So here on the printer, we have it partially completed. So you can see it actually just builds from the ground up. And the interesting thing about shoes is that traditionally, if you wanted to make shoes, it's a difficult manufacturing process. Unlike making a cell phone, where you have one size of cell phone and you make a mold for that, with shoes, you have to do sizing. So you have to do right and left molds, and then you have to do 10 sizes for that. There are some automatic wins just from being able to not have molds. That's a given. And also from the technology, you're benefiting from the fact that fashion has a great margin on the design advantage versus the materials and the speed of iteration and getting new styles to market. So we don't sell printers. It's far easier to actually sell shoes. There's actually just more margin. So here's a pair of our prototype ballet flats, and they actually also have like the sole on the bottom. Like, because we focus on shoes, we can customize the technology to have certain needs. And so these are shoes I'm wearing, and they come out 90% complete from the machine. We do a few details afterwards. Oops. And so making a lot of shoes, we can actually just get more machines. So it does take several hours to print a shoe, but with the cost of a machine being under $3,000, we just get more machines. And the beauty of this is that it actually works extremely well for e-commerce. It's a seamless digital process. It might take a couple hours to make a pair of shoes, but we just ship the next day. No inventory, no stocking and shipping from another manufacturer. And so the question of how do we do this well? Like, how do we distinguish ourselves from the competition is that a lot of it is about product design that brings the technology together. You might think of product design as kind of the visual aesthetics, but product design here is really about design for manufacturing. It's that certain things can be made to work better given your manufacturing technology. And with 3D printing, it's just not the same as how you would normally make shoes. So if you watch the machine printing, like here's a close-up of a version of that I'm wearing, you notice that it doesn't just make a solid thing. There's the interior space. So a lot of what determines your quality and efficiency is about designing these invisible things that no one's going to see. So a lot of people think about 3D files, like downloading music files from the internet. But a lot of what makes a design work in the 3D printing process is actually this. This is the slice file. There is a conversion process of taking your three-dimensional design and turning it into two-dimensional paths for the machine. And this is kind of our secret sauce. Like, this is actually the part that we work closely on. Essentially, what we do is we optimize the machine path file for our given designs. So here's like a simple illustration where if you do a default slicing on a design, it'll make extra paths. But if you adjust certain things, because you know what you're making a shoe, you can get a cleaner path file, and thus it's faster and higher quality. So another part of the software is that how are you going to make a lot of designs fairly fast? So given ballet flats, people wear a lot of ballet flats. You can take a base ballet flat, and then you can actually make different designs from that same base design just by using images. So this is actually a technique we're borrowing from animation. So this design was a derivative of this design. And here's another example. So this opens up the possibility of later on, actually having this whole thing as a platform. It's not just about the printers. It's about a whole platform for how do you build the next generation of fast fashion. So I'll just end with some photos. At this stage, we're going to focus on a few designs to start with, doing probably like 6, some heels, and then some flats. So this is like a little preview. We'll have some new things when we do the full launch. We're going to go into user testing and then open up pre-orders and then open up sales next spring. We're going to be the first company to make ready-to-wear 3D printed shoes. Not just things you see at the runway, but things that you can actually buy and wear in daily life. If you'd like updates, that is our website. That got misformatted slightly, but that's basically all. Thank you, everyone, for having me. It's been lovely to be in Paris.